within about 48 hours, so keep your eye open for that. If you take a look at your webinar console, on the top right-hand corner, you're going to see a resources widget. And you will find any of the URLs that we might mention today or any resources we mention. All of those are going to be easily accessible for you there. And finally, on the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to see a survey, and we would greatly appreciate some feedback about today's session. Maybe give us some ideas of what you'd like to learn more about related to today's topic. All right, we have 3 speakers with us today. Debbie Lyons is a Senior Product Marketing Manager. Lindsay Berg is the Director of Product Marketing for Azure. And Vijay Kumar is the Director of Product Marketing for Windows Server. And I will hand it over now to you, Lindsay.
Thanks so much, Pamela. I'm really excited to be here today to talk a little bit more about why we're seeing customers choose Azure for their Microsoft workloads, for Windows Server and for SQL Server. We have with us today, as Pamela said, Debbie Lyons, who's our SQL expert, and we'll be talking a little bit more about data in the cloud and why you might choose Azure as the right platform for those data workloads. And then also Vijay Kumar, who's going to represent Windows Server today and talk a little bit about migration, how you might bring Windows Server workloads to the cloud, and again, why you choose Azure. We see customers choosing Azure for a number of reasons, most specifically cost, innovation, and security. And by drilling down into those 3 areas and looking at the decision-making process around migration, we hope to be able to share with you why we really do believe that this is the best choice for our Microsoft workloads. So with that, Vijay, if you'd like to start talking a little bit about migration, that would be fantastic.
Thank you, Lindsay. My name is Vijay Kumar. I lead the Windows Server marketing team. Our customers move to the cloud and specifically to Azure for a number of reasons. They move because of the workload performance, maybe ease of management, elastic scale to run their workloads on the latest infrastructure, not having to worry about whether the software versions are going out of date or what have you. Or simply they want to get their data consolidated in one cloud so they can run analytics, machine learning, and AI over their data. And they also want cost predictability. These are the various reasons customers run. According to our own market research that we ran in May 2019, this data really confirms the reasons why customers move to the cloud and specifically to Azure. Now let's talk about why customers would want to move to the cloud or to Azure now. Their data center contracts may be expiring. They may want to be able to integrate some of the recent acquisitions that they made, and we'll talk about customer examples a little bit later in the webinar. They may also have urgent capacity needs. They may want to scale up and scale down for seasonality. They may want to do a refresh of their software and hardware and operating systems. They may have security threats. They may have compliance reasons like GDPR. Or they may just want to, deliver on to their customers on the latest application innovation and services and things of that nature. Or they may simply have the end of support issues with their software that they're running on premises. We'll talk a little bit more about these migration triggers soon, and these are the reasons why customers do decide to move to the cloud now. So let's talk about the most imminent reason why customers would want to move to the cloud: end of support. Some of the most popular versions of software running on premises, like SQL Server 2008 R2, that went end of support last year in July, and Windows Server 2008 in R2 that's coming up on January 14, 2020. These are the very popular operating system versions or application versions that customers are running, and they're depending on for their mission critical and business critical workloads. And to make it easier for customers to move their Windows Server and SQL Server workloads and run them in Azure, we've actually made available free extended security updates for up to 3 years, so the customers can stay secure and compliant while they decide to modernize their workloads or choose which modernization path they may want to choose. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about why customers are choosing Azure to run their Windows Server and SQL Server workloads. There are various good reasons why customers will run their Windows Server and SQL Server workloads on Azure, but the key ones are here. First of all, unmatched security is something that we offer in Azure because we analyze trillions of threat signals every day. We have thousands of security experts that are working to keep your data secure, and we have $1 billion per year investment in security alone. On top of security, customers would also like to run their workloads on Azure because of innovation that we offer. We offer unparalleled innovation because we are the only cloud with evergreen SQL, which never needs to be patched or updated. You never have to worry about going end of support once you move to this service. We also have unique built-in management and governance capabilities in Azure that allows you to govern using capabilities like role-based access control, Azure policy, etc. We also run a fully managed service for any .NET app that you can use to build on Azure, like App Service. On top of innovation, we also offer the lowest cost. We have unbeatable offers. We are 5 times less expensive than the alternatives out there. With programs like Azure Hybrid Benefit that lets you use your existing Windows Server and SQL Server licenses to run them in Azure, we offer the lowest cost. We also have free extended security updates for your Windows Server 2008 and SQL Server 2008 machines when you run them on Azure. And finally, we have the most comprehensive and built-in hybrid offering out in the market. This is because of decades of experience working with our enterprise customers, meeting them where they are and meeting their needs wherever they are, whether the needs are to run their workloads in the cloud or some of their workloads need to be run on premises but connected to the cloud seamlessly. We're the only cloud provider that offers end-to-end hybrid infrastructure. We have 3 million plus hybrid-enabled Windows servers through Windows Admin Center that allows you to connect your on-premises Windows servers to Azure and use them both seamlessly. We have the most comprehensive backward and forward SQL compatibility with Azure SQL DB managed instance. We'll talk a little bit more about hybrid a little bit later. Let me hand over to Debbie to go into some of the topics like security and innovation.
Thank you, Vijay. As you mentioned, I'm going to talk about how some of these guiding principles for our investment in Azure land in our specific products. So my area of focus, as Lindsay mentioned, is SQL Server and SQL migration to Azure. So absolutely jump in if you want to embellish about how this helps Windows customers move from on-premises to Azure as well. Some of the things that customers can take advantage of when they move to Azure are, as Vijay mentioned, our investment in security of $1 billion plus per year that has enabled us to build many unique security features and invest in security and compliance in ways that may be better than what you're able to offer on premises in your own data center. For instance, with this investment and with the level of monitoring and data that we're collecting about security in the cloud, we have built a number of unique to Azure products. Azure Security Center is a really cool one, and then it lets you manage your security in a hybrid manner. It can be used across the Windows Server that you're running in Azure, as well as on premises. And so it can give you a holistic picture of your security stance. And there are a couple products that we've built that can help you keep your data secure in real time that harness the 6.5 trillion signals that we're processing every day. Azure Sentinel and Automatic Threat Detection are just two of these products. They are AI-driven products that can monitor your data and look for things like unauthorized login attempts so that you get alerted in real time and your data is kept secure, rather than finding out about the potential of a breach weeks later. Some other things that are really unique to Azure include our investment in confidential computing, a hardware-driven security feature where you can keep part of your most important data encrypted on hardware based on our Intel SGX investment. And of course, as Vijay mentioned, free security updates mean that your SQL Server 2008 and 2008 R2 and Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2 continue to stay patched against critical and important security flaws. And so if any security vulnerabilities are ever discovered in these products in the next 3 years, you can rest assured that you are running software that is patched and secure and compliant. All right. And then when it comes to innovation, this is really one of my favorite stories and a reason a lot of customers are moving to the cloud. And that's so that they can modernize their applications. They want to take advantage of Azure services that offer things that you just can't get on premises. For instance, Azure SQL Database has a lot of additional features on top of its great SQL Server engine that you already know. These include machine learning driven performance and security features that can automatically tune your database. App Service is another great one. It can take your web applications built in .NET and scale them over time with minimal management from your IT team, freeing you up to focus on innovation. Another great one, Windows Virtual Desktop. It is the best virtual desktop experience available, only on Azure. And I know that there are a lot of unique features, like the fact that you can do virtual desktop with Windows 7, which, like SQL 2008, is nearing end of support. All this comes together to create a destination for your Windows and SQL apps where you can actually innovate to them. You can add the latest in AI machine learning to your application and make it an intelligent app. You can scale it on demand. Lots of great modernization capabilities that you just can't get on premises in your data center. Another thing that we've been investing in is the performance of Windows and SQL on Azure. And we recently commissioned a study by analyst firm GigaOM to compare SQL Server running on Azure to some of our competitors. And what they found out is that on a price to performance ratio basis, Azure SQL Database and SQL VMs can give you mission critical SQL Server performance while costing up to 87% less than alternatives would give you for the same performance. So what they did was they took an OLTP workload, so meaning like an application style workload, and they ran it against Azure SQL Database as well as SQL Server running in AWS RDS. They found out that Azure has better performance and significantly better pricing. So that price to performance ratio was much lower in Azure, where lower of course is better because you want to pay less for that performance. Same thing with SQL VMs. They actually found out that our performance in Azure was 3 times faster than SQL Server running on AWS EC2. And once you took into account our great pricing programs, that again meant a fantastic price to performance ratio, much lower than what you could get from AWS. So I just want to kind of summarize how these pricing programs that we talked about come together. If you have Windows Server 2008 that's coming up on end of support next month, or SQL Server 2008 that you still haven't moved, you should definitely consider Azure for it. Once you combine the free extended security updates that are available in Azure, keeping your application secure and compliant for 3 more years, with our Azure Hybrid Benefit Savings that give you credit in Azure for your on-premises Windows Server and SQL Server licenses, you are actually paying 5 times less than what you would pay to run those same Windows and SQL Server workloads in AWS. So not only are you getting access to innovation and security, but you're actually getting the best price for those Microsoft workloads in the cloud. So I want to show you how you can actually combine all the great pricing programs that we spoke about, including the free extended security updates for Windows Server 2008 and SQL Server 2008, as well as the Azure Hybrid Benefit that gives you credit in Azure for your on-premises Windows Server and SQL Server license position to get the absolute best price for these Microsoft workloads when you run them in Azure. You can see in these graphics on the right-hand side that when you combine the extended security updates along with those hybrid benefit savings, you pay up to 5 times less to run your Microsoft workloads, your Windows and SQL workloads in Azure as you do in AWS. So not only are you getting the benefit of all the security investment that we talked about, access to innovation for your applications, great performance, but you're getting it at the absolute best pricing available for Microsoft workloads in the cloud. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Vijay to talk a little bit about how we support you in a hybrid world.
When we think about hybrid, we think about it very comprehensively, all the way from identity, where customers may want to use their on-premises Active Directory as their identity store, or Azure Active Directory on Azure, or use them both seamlessly. We think about operating systems like Windows Server and Windows Client, whether they're running on-premises or on Azure. We think about application platforms running seamlessly across on-premises and cloud, and data platform like SQL Server and Azure Data Services running seamlessly together. We also think about security and management. We think about security in terms of keeping not only your resources in Azure secure, but also the hybrid resources that are running on premises seamlessly with Azure Secure, and also manageability of all of these resources across on-premises and Azure. So let me talk a little bit more about Azure Hybrid. When we look at the hybrid cloud solutions that we have the most comprehensive hybrid solutions so the customers can choose whatever meets their need. We have Azure Stack portfolio of products, where we have Azure Stack integrated systems with Azure Stack Hub that allows customers to run Azure data services on premises if they want to run them in a disconnected mode, or for other reasons like security and compliance. They can also run Azure Stack HCI, where they're running their existing applications on virtual machines on an Azure connected infrastructure. Or they can use Azure Stack Edge to run compute, storage, and intelligence at the edge. On the right-hand side, we also have Azure IoT that can run on any edge device connected to Azure. Now, recently, to make this more comprehensive and meet customers where they are and have them seamlessly connected to Azure and take advantage of the security and innovation that Azure provides, we announced Azure Arc that allows you to run Azure management and services on any data center, any cloud, or any edge. So let me talk a little bit more about Azure Arc. We announced Azure Arc recently at Ignite. Azure Arc brings Azure services and management to any infrastructure. Azure Arc allows you to run Azure data services like Azure SQL DB and Azure PostgreSQL on premises, so that these workloads are evergreen even when they're running on premises, and get all the advantages of Azure services. You can also extend Azure management across your environments. You can use Azure management services and capabilities like role-based access control, Azure policy, and other governance capabilities on your Windows Server and Linux Server VMs that you're running on premises, or for that matter, Kubernetes clusters that you're running on premises. You can also adopt modern cloud practices on premises like GitOps, use GitHub and DevOps and things of that nature for your on-premises workloads. And you can also implement Azure Security Anywhere. You can use governance features, like I mentioned, role-based access control and Azure policy, to make sure that you're having governance over your workloads that you're running on premises. Azure Arc is basically a set of technologies that extends the goodness of Azure management and enables Azure services to run across on-premises, multi-cloud, and edge. The other reason why customers really choose to run their Windows Server and SQL servers on Azure is because of the deep trust that they have in Microsoft, and we're really humbled by that. We also have enterprise-grade support because of our history of supporting enterprises running on-premises workloads. Our products are built for each other so that they're better integrated and run well with each other. We have higher compatibility and really support less support is needed to actually run them. Right? And whenever there is support, you don't need to go to multiple companies for support. You can come to Microsoft and support them. We will continue to build on existing skills and investments as you transition your apps to Azure, because it's really the same team that we worked on, designed all of these wonderful enterprise products that are actually building Azure as well. And we also have support available 24/7. And as we are a global company with global customers, we are also multilingual. Okay. For these various reasons, a number of customers, thousands of customers, are actually moving to Azure. They're moving to Azure to run their Windows Server and SQL Server workloads. They're running millions of VMs, millions of databases in Azure, as you can see some of the big names over here. We'll pick a couple of them and talk to you about their unique scenarios and why they decided to run their Windows Server and SQL Server workloads in Azure. First of all, Allscripts. Allscripts is a healthcare software manufacturer and time to market is very important to them, and that's why they choose to migrate to Azure. And of course, being a healthcare software company, security and compliance were very important. They wanted to comply with regulations like HIPAA, Patient Privacy Acts, and things of that nature. Right? They recently also had 2 acquisitions, and they were under time constraint to integrate them into their infrastructure very quickly, and that's why they chose Azure. They had Windows Server and SQL Server workloads. They used Azure first-party tools to migrate thousands of VMs to Azure in just 3 weeks. They migrated about 50 healthcare applications, and now they're running them in Azure, and they're looking at moving a number of their on-prem apps to Azure, so they can consolidate that 6 data centers that they're running around the world and get out of the data center operations and run their healthcare applications successfully in Azure. And I'll hand it over to Debbie to talk about another customer.
Thanks, Vijay. Yeah, when we think about moving to the cloud and the benefits of cloud as far as the elasticity of scale and ease of management, our customer H&R Block really had a lot of unique characteristics around the intense seasonality of their business that made cloud a super clear choice. And they are a U.S. tax preparation company, and so they do most of their business, over a quarter of their business, in 2 weeks of the year. And they, during that time, really rely on uptime and responsiveness of their applications. Achieving all that in their data center was getting harder and harder. So they looked at the clouds available to them, and they decided that Azure was the absolute best for their Windows Server and SQL Server applications. And in fact, they began consolidating their data platform, including some mainframe applications and some data warehouses that ran on other data platforms to run on SQL Server so that they could get this awesome SQL performance on Azure. And during 2018, they moved a couple of their most important customer-facing applications to Azure VMs, ran them on SQL Server and Azure VMs during the 2019 tax season, but they felt like they could get even more from the cloud if they moved to managed data services. So actually this year they undertook a plan to bring their most important applications to Azure SQL Database, and that's where they'll be running them during next tax season. All this has meant that they have access to not only great performance and reliability for their applications, but also innovation. They're running more AI and machine learning over their data now that they've consolidated it in Azure. And they're hoping to add a lot of great things, like, for instance, tax deduction suggestions that are important and applicable to the individual customer in upcoming tax seasons. So really a great story of how this company was able to consolidate their applications to Azure and run them on the data platform there and get lots of benefits for their customers. All right. So let's say that you are looking to take the next step in migrating your Windows and SQL applications to Azure. How can Microsoft help you? We've actually put together quite a few materials to help you with best practices, to help you find partners, and to connect you with Microsoft for support. A great location to go is the Azure Migration Center. It brings together these tools, processes, guidance, and support direct from Microsoft in one location to take you through a step-by-step process to assess your on-premises Windows Server and SQL Server, to migrate it, to optimize it once it gets to the cloud, and to secure and manage it. We also have programs for customers who are getting ready to migrate, such as the Azure Migration Program. This is really our central location for customers who are thinking about moving their Windows and SQL workloads to Azure to come and get all the best practices and support from Microsoft that we spoke about. Azure Migration Program provides a combination of best practices guidance, as well as offers and incentives all in one place, technical skill building so that your team can get trained up on how to run Windows and SQL in Azure. You can also get direct help from Microsoft with infrastructure and data foundations, as well as planning your migration and executing it, or be connected with partners to help you out with these same things. Azure Migration Program is a great way to reduce cost and risk of your migration and speed your migration velocity so you get to results faster. You can learn more about it at azure.com/AMP. So speaking of those best practices, if you want to find them all in one place, you should come to the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure. Cloud Adoption Framework is a distilled set of best practices from our own experiences at Microsoft adopting the cloud, as well as those of our various engineering teams and services groups. They really come together to combine and to document this set of best practice guidance. We can help you set up your cloud environment for success with governance, with management and administration, with how you do your migration, how you adopt the cloud, and how you manage going forward. So really a full, complete set of cloud adoption lifecycle guidance available at aka.ms/cloud adoption framework, or just looking for Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure. So you can learn from all of our effort to get Microsoft applications to the cloud. When it comes to tooling, we actually have some Microsoft-created tools to help you get there. Our main tool is called Azure Migrate, and Azure Migrate is really the hub for all your migration needs. It can help you discover and assess your on-premises Windows Server and SQL Server workloads, choose a destination in the cloud, and get started actually migrating or moving those workloads to Azure. On top of that, it can connect you with specialty tools for workloads like moving your databases and moving your applications if you're considering Azure App Services. We can even help you get from other databases to Microsoft SQL Server, if that's part of your modernization journey. Microsoft has tools to help you assess and migrate from other database sources to SQL Server in Azure using our SQL Server Migration Assistant, as well as other tools like Azure Migrate and Database Migration Service. And finally, once again, just relanding where you can find all this great tools, processes, and assistance. It actually has a link to the Azure Migration Program. That's all in the Azure Migration Center. So this helps you, it's your one-stop shop that has all the resources that we just talked about, as well as workload-specific guidance for migrating your Windows Server and your SQL Server to Azure. It's a great place to get started if you're just getting going on this migration journey. Really encourage you to go there. It can help you do things like find our TCO calculator so that you can build a business case, find case studies of other companies in your same industry that are considering, that have migrated to Azure, and really help you make the case and get started on your migration. All right, with that, I'm going to recap that list of resources that we talked about. Make sure you know where to go to find them. We have an amazing page that can help you find out more about some of the reasons we discussed today that Windows Server and SQL Server are best on Azure, as well as the Azure Migration Center, which is really the home for all of those tools and resources we talked about and can help you find things like Azure Migration Program and Cloud Adoption Framework. All right, and now I'm going to turn it back over to Lindsay to recap some of those great migration resources that we talked about.
Thanks so much, Debbie. Basically, if you have additional questions, we'd be really happy to answer them. One great resource is our Windows Server and SQL Server Best on Azure page, where we actually have links into pages directly for Windows Server, for SQL Server, and for .NET. You can get additional information on all of the topics that we've covered today, as well as see some of our recent blog posts, and continue to follow new and evolving content on how you can run these workloads more effectively. We do recommend, as Debbie says, the Azure Migration Center, and we have the link to it here. The Azure Migration Program is a phenomenal collection of resources, including training, guidance through the Cloud Adoption Framework, specific resources from Microsoft Engineering, and additional benefits that may help you in your migration journey. So we do encourage you to visit the AMP page and sign up for the program so that we can help you directly. And then finally, a detailed page on the Cloud Adoption Framework so that you can learn more about the process and considerations that you need to think about as you move to the cloud. We really want to thank you for joining us today. This is such an important topic. We've been with our Windows Server and SQL customers for decades, literally decades. And we believe that this is the moment when we need to provide you the support that you need as you take steps forward into the cloud. This is a very high priority for us as a company and as an organization, because we do understand the investments that you've made into your existing on-premises data centers and the work that you've done so far to optimize and learn Windows Server and SQL Server. If you have any additional questions, please do feel free to reach out to us. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Pamela.
All right. Thanks, Lindsay, and thank you to the whole team today. Lots of great information today. So I do want to remind everyone that the resources that Lindsay just mentioned and any other resources that might have been mentioned throughout the webinar today, those are all available in clickable links for you up in the resources widget on the top right-hand corner of your console. One other quick reminder, we are actually going to stick around for about 10 additional minutes today and try to answer any lingering questions you might have. So please feel free to pop those questions right now into the Q&A box and we will get to them as quickly as we can. Once again, on behalf of the whole team, thank you so much for your attendance today and we hope to see you at an upcoming webinar soon.